Hi, and welcome to Camp Happy Mail. Thank you for joining me today for another midweek video. If you saw my video last week, you saw the stack of bits and pieces that I had put together as kind of little card kits. These were just miscellaneous things that were left over from other projects that I've put into little plastic pages that I'm going to make into cards. So I pulled one of these out today. I need just a hello card for a new friend that I made. I was out one day last week and happened to be in a place with a waiting room, and there was another lady that was there with her friend, and both of us were coloring. And she struck up a conversation with me, and she was very, very nice. And it turns out she was a paper crafter. She used to make cards, but now she makes art journals or junk journals. So I thought it would be fun, and I did ask them before we left if I could send them Happy Mail at some point. And they both agreed and gave me their addresses. So I thought I would go ahead and make her a card. So that's what we're going to do today. So I have these pieces that were left over from various other projects. And because they were all purples, I decided to go ahead and put them together. I do have two different card bases in here. One is purple and one is white because I don't know which one I want to use yet. And then I have a piece of pattern paper that was run through an embossing folder. I've got a die cut that was taken out of some glitter paper. I've got some scraps of white paper that I had collaged on. And then I have this piece of glitter paper that also matches the die cut. So I thought that would tie it in if I used this. So using these pieces, we're going to make a card. So let's go ahead and get started. The first thing I thought I would do is figure out how I want to lay this out. So let me move this stuff for now. We are going to come back to these because I have an idea for those. So I'm thinking to, and I could turn this over and just use the white side if I wanted to. And this appears, now that I'm looking at this, it appears that this was strips of a scrap piece of paper because I can see the little lines going through it. Anyways, so I'm thinking I'm going to matte this in the purple just to give it a little pizzazz. And then I have to decide which color base we want it on. And then these pieces, because this is a nice strip, I'm thinking maybe we could just do something easy. Like I'll trim this a little bit. We could put this down along the side. And we could put this across the front of it. And I think that would look nice because it would tie in the two. But as I'm looking at this, I'm noticing that this piece kind of gets lost in this one. And that's why I thought maybe I would ink the edges a little bit. But I need to figure out which color of purple that I have would best go between those two. And then we'll figure out something to do with this maybe. So let me get some scrap paper and test out these inks. Now I'm not sure which is going to go best between these. It's always hard to tell by the colors on the labels because the colors on the labels usually aren't the true color. And I apologize if the sound has changed. I'm sitting down now, whereas I was standing up closer to the mic before. So let's see. Okay, so that's pixie dust, and you can see the color is not the same as what it is on the cap. So we'll keep these in order. That's pixie dust. Let's do a little bit of glam. I am going to use the same brush for these because they're all dye inks. So we'll just clean that off. Okay, and that's glam. take a look at some Highland Heather. This is Stampin' Up. And this is Fresh Freesia. This is actually the color of this cardstock paper. That's super light. And then Gorgeous Grape. Okay. And looking at these, I'm thinking maybe this one would go best because this is a little too bright and this one's too dark. Yeah, I'm thinking this one would go best on these. So, and that was Glam. So now I'm just going to take and I'm just going to lightly ink around the edges of this panel. Nothing real difficult, just some very light ink blending on the edges. And I'm not even using that much ink. Just like that. And then we'll go ahead and do this piece as well. Okay, I think that'll work well. Okay, so now we have to decide if we want these to be, well, I don't even know if we need this piece. Although I do like that this piece tied this in. Okay, so I think this is the combination we're going to go with. So let's go ahead and start to put this together. Now this piece is a little larger than my base, so I'm going to go ahead and cut this down with a stitched border die. So let me do that. Okay, so we've got this piece now, so let's go ahead and glue this down. And then this piece. This is a quick, easy card, completely made with leftover pieces. So if you have leftover pieces lying around, pair them up and put them in little plastic pages or someplace to keep them together. So when you have a few minutes and you need a quick card, you can easily put together one. That's all I'm doing here. I think that little bit of ink blending really helped around the edges of this. And then we'll put this piece down. And this piece. And this piece is going to be a little bit tedious to glue down because it is so intricate. I'm not worried about getting glue on around all of the petals and everything, just the majority of them. And I think this piece we'll use as the tag for the sentiment. So let me find a sentiment to use for on this. I'm looking for something that just says hello or hello there or hi. I found this set. This is a Stampin' Up! Set that was called Sweet Strawberry. I believe this is probably retired at this point. It's a couple years old. And it has a stamp in it that says hello there. So I think we're going to stamp this onto this piece, and then we'll die cut it out with probably the second smallest rectangle. Let's see if this will work. Yeah, that will work. And that's just going to be big enough. And we will ink blend around the edges of this. So let me cut this piece. Actually, let me stamp it first, and then we'll cut it. So let's go ahead and do that part. And I think we'll go ahead and stamp this in the same glam color. And that'll be perfect. Now I'm going to go ahead and die cut this, and then we'll be back to do the ink blending around the edges. There's our sentiment, and then this is the little piece that's left over. And I'm just going to give myself permission to throw this piece away. So let's go ahead and ink blend around the edges of this. I think just like that. Maybe a little more along the top. Okay. And I think we're going to pop this one up on some dimensionals. Just to make it stand out even just a little bit more. I'll just pop that right down there. And I think as one last little touch on this, we've got some orange butterflies over here. And I'm wondering if maybe we should put some little gemstones in the centers of some of these flowers. And maybe some orange just to tie in the orange. So let's go ahead and do that. Yeah, I think that's going to work nicely. Just give it a little bit more extra color besides just all of the purple. So what do you think? A few leftover bits and pieces from other projects turned into a pretty purple card, suitable enough to send to a new friend. I think it turned out pretty well myself. So I hope you enjoyed seeing this one come together, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Have a great day.